Hi, everybody. Welcome to Barça Volume once again, Culé Podcast, episode number 8. And boy, do we have so much to talk about. And what else to do that there's to do to talk about? I mean, seriously. And who is better to do that with than my man here, Dan? How's it going, my man? Thank you for being on the show. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a long few days. I've been busy with other work. So yesterday I came out with my video about top winners and losers from the preseason tour, and I wrote the script the night before, recorded it, didn't have time to edit it. So as I'm editing it, what happens? Of course, Iñigo Martinez news dropped. Didn't have time to do that. So here we are. The content game continues on pushing
Oh
on, but
my
I wouldn't
goodness.
have it any other way.
It's so hard to keep up. Honestly, like I knew this family back way back, right? Every holiday, every time we were visiting, there was always something going on. It was either Uncle Joe doing something stupid, and Maria going here, storming off, and then all of a sudden they're talking about a fight that happens 3 years ago. That kind of seems like the old turmoil that's going on with Barcelona today. Like like just like you said, the Iñigo Martinez yesterday took me off guard like crazy, and all of a sudden, I was getting ready to make another video for today, and then the news dropped that Ter Stegen signed the documents. But no, man. Let's get started. We can't start with any other topic right now than Ter Stegen. I mean, this whole thing to me, I've always thought, he's one of the legends of the club. He's probably the oldest out of everybody in the club, right? He's been at the club for 11 years. And then I thought he was kind of ruining his reputation by not siding with the club on this one. I know the club handled it poorly as well. And all of a sudden, dude, we get rid of Iñigo Martinez yesterday. And now he signs after, he was stripped from the captaincy for a minute. And now he's back number one captain. What do you make of all this stuff, Dan?
I don't know what changed between yesterday and today with him signing the documents. That's the parts of it that we don't know. Like, there is a part of his statement that I do want to read that is really interesting to me. He
Right.
said, "At no point could I consider that my unfortunate circumstances with the new surgery I had to undergo would be necessary for the registration of other colleagues whom I greatly respect and look forward to share locker room with for many seasons. I'm fully willing to collaborate with the club's management to resolve this matter and to provide the requested authorization." So that does not seem to be at all what we understand from 24 hours ago, what was coming from his camp and that pushback. And so, yeah, maybe something changed behind the scenes that obviously he comes out with the statement he did, because the club's official statement was obviously pretty frustrated. It seemed like the locker room was backing him in certain
Yeah.
ways, but
Yeah.
also frustrated with him. So it's a tough thing. Again, I've been doing the podcast for 8 years now, and I find if you decide to, and this is not just Barcelona, it's every club, if you decide to defend your club for everything they do, and kind of forget that they are a business that is
Yeah.
looking to try to stay front facing, as well
Hmm.
as being a club that has political elections, and if you do forget that a little bit, then it obviously the every bit of news has to be boiled down to winners and losers or to heroes and villains, right? And I think I try to be very careful throughout this entire saga, knowing it's a saga, that his legacy, even if he stuck around, like it's going to be tarnished because this whole saga is going to tarnish it. But someone did mention that if you remember 2 years ago when
Hmm.
the summertime and De Jong was being forced out of the club, when the club was saying that they were going to take legal action against him and
Oh
the
yeah.
contract, things like that, right? I think we could look in the rear view mirror in 2 months' time and say, actually, that Ter Stegen thing, it happened so quickly, it seems so dramatic, but yet that's just what Barcelona is. So when these stories comes out, I try to say that there's some frustration
Yeah.
on from the player. There's some, valid frustration too. He deferred his payments. He deferred paychecks so that he could, well, not full paychecks, but he deferred some of the payment that he was owed on the contract he signed. Again, it's just a business at the end of the day, right? The club has your best interest, but also it doesn't. So I just want to make sure that these kind of sagas, they
Yeah.
destroy some of the romanticism of it. And,
Yeah.
obviously Kool-Aid's love the romanticism of Barcelona. That's why we're
Right.
here, right? And I think it's a hard thing when you're trying to juggle all those things at the same time of maybe the player is a little wrong, but not entirely wrong. The club is
Yeah.
a little right and a little wrong. And there's this thing called nuance, Miguel. And we're
Yeah.
just it's impossible, right? It's impossible.
It kind of gives you those vibes like a workplace, right? Which is at the end of the day, this is what it is, right? There's always misunderstandings. There's always this employee should do this. I think that as a leader, this person should do that, and it seems like this is what happened here. Now, I went off because I'm an emotional guy. That's why I bring on people like you to talk some sense into me, because I'm really emotional, right? Like I go on a rant and say, you know what, you shouldn't have done that. You're the captain, and you know, but I forget sometimes that we, you know, he restructured his deal during the pandemic. We gave him a 6-year deal. We kicked the can down the road with him because we kind of offloaded his contract, and so we can, you know, offload it to later, right? Well, that's what I was telling someone on another channel. It's like, well, later, kicking down the road is right now.
Yeah,
we get to the end of the deal right now, and that's why we owed him 40 million euros, and it's not a surprise. And now I do see his side of it. Like he's thinking like, well, I did the club a solid by doing this, and now I'm getting to the end of my deal, and now they want me to cancel the contract. I know the rumors were like somebody was, I guess somebody reported that the club was offering like a year's worth of salary in exchange to terminate the contract. Till like we knew he wasn't going to do that because he offloaded his contract towards the end. Well, and at the end, it's right now.
Well, and why would you accept that the person that you're being asked to sit out for is taking your spot and trying to keep? I mean, they're trying to use his salary to register, or 80% of his salary to register his replacement, right? So why would you agree to that? You know, I have an example that I'm currently going through on my own club team. Like the people that are taking my spot are 2 or 3 of my friends. And it's really hard for me to say, I don't want to wish any ill will on any of my friends. I want them to succeed. But because they're playing well, then I have to sit there and watch them play. And, you know, I really like my friends, but I also would love to be playing. And it's one of those things where it's very difficult for the individual. And now imagine doing that with millions and millions of people, as you said, caring. Like for me, and I wouldn't say I'm unemotional, but I feel like I got emotional on my podcast in like 2018. Somebody checked me, and then Messi started crying in 2021, and I don't think I felt anything since until like Lamine Yamal. But I was like, wait a second, this kid's like 17. You know what I mean? Like, so I try to be even keel on everything, including something like this, where, as I said, like the club could have, in a lot of different ways, handled this much better. And I think they put it on Ter Stegen to have to be the front-facing person to handle this a certain way. But again, it's really tough because Ter Stegen, if what he's saying, who are you going to believe, right? If what he's saying is true, that the doctors that he's conferring with, including the one who did the surgery, is saying it's only about a 3-month recovery, then why is he signing medical documents that are going to keep him on the sideline for 4 months? Why is he doing that? If he thinks that he is going to be out for 2.5 months and then he's going to regain the number 1 spot, because that is what he has had for almost a decade, why would he think otherwise? Why would he say, well, my doctor who just gave me the surgery, he must be lying to me because Barcelona has already replaced me? And so, again, I see it from his perspective. And I think I almost defend him more now, especially since he signed the papers, because he capitulated and basically got bullied into doing it. And I mean, was it the right thing to do for Ter Stegen to sign those papers for the good of FC Barcelona? If he really is the main captain and truly wants the club to succeed, then yes, I guess so. But also, now he has to go to bed tonight saying, well, I did the thing that the club thinks best will help them succeed, but yet I think that I could help them best succeed. And yet I signed these papers that is saying that I'm not the thing that's going to help them best succeed. And that is almost impossible to do for a professional athlete, especially a goalkeeper. You can't be between the sticks if you're not utterly, completely confident in your own abilities above all else. You can't be a goalkeeper at the highest level and not believe that.
Yeah, it's so hard. Like it's so easily, right? We forget the humanity of things. Like if we put ourselves in his shoes, like think of it like if you're a company, right? And you're supposed to train your replacement. This is literally like the same thing when a company puts you in a position of your job and you want to keep that job. You want to still, be that leader, be that manager, and somebody else comes in who's been on at the company for like a week, and now they're asking you to train him because they're going to replace you. And none of us, like for us as fans, it's easy to side with the club and say, you should do this and do this for the club and that for the club. But at the end of the day, like we forget, like if we put ourselves in those shoes now, like you said, it's funny because yesterday I was really upset, and why I'm so emotional about Ter Stegen, it's because I've been a defender of Ter Stegen for a long time, and I feel like I had the credentials to go at him because I'm like, dude, the club gave you great salary for a long time. We offer you a 6-year deal. You did us a solid, but now that the club is asking you to do 30 days, he wants to do. He's like, I'm gonna be out for 3 months, and the club is like, can you be out for 4 months? And this is something that clubs will do all the time. But at the end of the day, dude, if it wasn't his replacement, he probably would have done it, and we've never would have talked about this. And instead, here we are because it's his replacement. He doesn't want to give the club any favors. But now, when he signed the medical report, now I'm back to where I was before, to where I'm like, dude, let's side with him a little bit. Let's give him a little bit more. I wanted him to. I thought he was a legend this whole time, and I still think he's a legend of the club. And when he's doing these type of things, I thought that he's kind of ruined that reputation with the club. But where do you side on this whole thing? Do you think he's even a legend, or do you think that he's not a legend? Because sometimes it's not about how long you've been to a place. And now I think now he's doing the right thing because he's going to speak at the Joan Gamper. That's a good caveat to throw at this whole thing. It's because it would be weird. Like the fans would just annihilate him during his speech or whatever if had he not signed that contract.
Well, I've done this conversation on my show quite a bit, so I'm going to use this time, of course, to selfishly plug the second part of our thing tonight, and that is the show, not live, but the show that we're going to pre-record for me, and I'm going to have that there because
sure.
One of the conversations I've had on that show multiple times is I have this top 75 list. I've been working on it for 5-6 years now. That it is a living, breathing thing, and it can change, and players can move up and down, obviously, and we can, again, that's a different show many times in the future about where Pedri would land or guys Lewandowski push on that list. But for Ter Stegen, even when I did that for the first time back in 2020, because of the number of games that he had played for Barcelona, and yes, obviously in the modern 21st century, they play more games than they used to, but the number of games that he has played as a goalkeeper FC Barcelona put him, even again 5 years ago, in rarefied air. It is him, it is Rama Yates, it is Zubizarreta, it is Victor Valdez, and it is going all the way back to Plotko back in the late 20s. I mean, again, a very short list of the top goalkeepers at Barcelona who play multiple seasons as the starter and who in the 2018-19 season can say that, hey, I'm a big reason, along with this guy named Lionel Messi, as to why the club won the Liga. So I do think that Ter Stegen, I almost have to judge goalkeepers. I think when I do this again very wisely, which I should be doing this year, I need to probably separate the goalkeepers because the curve for them is just so different. And so I think it's not so black and white, but yet when it's this odd thing too, Miguel, because I'm, again, trying to look at it very coldly and saying, with the number of appearances he's had, with the winning and the trophies and all the things that he's been a part of, being the first captain for the club for a season when they won the Liga, that it does feel like not, well, I don't know, what is below legends, right? It feels pseudo-legendary to me. But then you also have to listen to people. Because on my list, I had Luis Figo, who obviously is the most hated man in Barcelona history. But yet he won a Ballon d'Or because of what he did at Barcelona, plus some international in Portugal. But he won a Ballon d'Or for how good he was at Barcelona. And if he had just been the player and gone to, say, wherever, Monaco or Real Sociedad or wherever he went, and not Real Madrid, I think we would still call him a legend. But because of the way he left and what he did, he is not. And so for Ter Stegen, you kind of do have to, when you talk about legends, you do have to take into account the reaction from fans. And I think a lot of fans hate him. They've given up on him. They and they have, social media is not real life, but social media is indicative of just how angry fans are with Ter Stegen.
I still hold, sorry to cut you off, I still hold the Bravo saga against them till this day because he didn't want the club to have Bravo and him at the same time. And that was back in 2000. They both joined in 2014.
Well, I mean, as a young goalkeeper, again, he was backing himself. And at the time, that was initially how he got the contract he did. I mean, De Jong was the same thing. They got on a plane. He was on his way to Paris, right? And then Bartomeu and the delegation, right? And at the time, I don't think this exists on X anymore, but the amount of memes that you saw praising Bartomeu about being, the deal maker, the guy who got De Jong over the line and got it done and all these things, right? And I think the other thing I'm reminded too about social media is just how short our memories are. So to answer the legend status question, I'm going to do it the way that every content creator is supposed to do it. And I'm going to completely sidestep it and say, can we talk about this again later? Because depending on how this saga ends, if his legacy is just his legacy the way it is, I think he kind of might be. Like, he's a top 5 goalkeeper just based on how long he was there and how many games he played and the winning he did.
Yeah.
But in terms of a top 75 player, maybe not. And again, it's something I want to revisit because the last 5 years have also not been very kind to him. Again, he was top 75 for me in 2020, but he hasn't really done anything the last 5 years to keep that spot. And I think that affects his legacy a little bit too.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it brings me to my next topic, because what I thought it was really, really weird is, like, yesterday I had this theory, and you can tell me that I'm crazy. It's okay. But I thought that Iñigo Martinez, he's such a professional. And I'm like, I'm so hurt. I think we are a little worse than we were the day before he left the club. I do think that I kind of want a Christensen to kind of take over, because I know how old Iñigo Martinez is. But I rated Iñigo Martinez top 2 last year. I did this whole thing, my starting 11 for the whole Europe, right? And I put in my starting CBs were Virgil van Dijk and Iñigo Martinez, and that's how much I rated Iñigo Martinez. So it really pains me that Barcelona couldn't find a way to keep him. And I thought it was just all said and done. And I'm like, I'm so happy with this. When we got Rooney Bargy, we got Rashford. I'm like, you add into this team these other pieces, we have so much more depth. Gavi's going to be 1 more year into his ACL. And all of a sudden, big blow, Barcelona loses Iñigo Martinez, arguably our best defender, in my opinion. Like I said, how highly I rated him. I think nobody can play this high line as good as he can. And, dude, now Ter Stegen signs that paperwork. Dude, if he would have signed it like a week ago, maybe Iñigo Martinez stays, and we don't need to clear up any more cap space to register the other players. But that's just kind of my theory. I'm like, maybe Iñigo Martinez. Do you think Iñigo Martinez left just because of money, or do you think in his heart of hearts he was like, I'm gonna do Barcelona a favor while getting some money from Saudi?
I think it's the second one. I think I truly do. I think that the way he left Barcelona, it did feel like it was on his terms. And I would implore people to think back. Again, last season, I completely agree with you. I think from start to finish, he was Barcelona's best center back. I think that is true. But I think unequivocally that was not going to be true this season. And I think he knew that. I think we saw a little bit of a drop in the last 2 months, 2.5 months of last season with Iñigo Martinez. And I think that there was one report, there was like this sliver of a report that said that he didn't trust himself for another full season of elite European football.
Right. And he left on that semifinals, UCL. He left injured.
Correct. And I think there is something to that he decided that, yes, it was also, again, for the big Saudi Arabia payday, sure. But I do think that he said to himself that I can't do this and I want to leave on my terms. And leaving on your terms at that kind of grace is really interesting, because when I think about Iñigo Martinez and his time at Barcelona, when, again, talking about legacy, some names that I saw compared to how he's leaving is David Villa and Thierry Henry, players who you were like, well, you probably actually had more to give. It felt like they had more to give, but instead they lead the club on freeze. And at the time, it frees up salary for other players to come in, which, even if that's not going to happen this year, in theory, the players that are coming in are already here in Rashford and Joan Garcia, of course.
Yeah.
Right? The players are already arrived. But they kind of leave on their own terms, and they leave with the grace that they're kind of remembered as winners. There's no decline for Iñigo Martinez, because I said the decline that we saw was swift, and it came at the end of last season. And I think if he thinks that who he is now, then I'm glad that he's going on his terms. And I think, to your point, it's kind of Barcelona's. Yeah. It's kind of their opus mortem to then figure out, is it going to be Christensen, can Araujo and Kubarsi and potentially then Koundé, who are we going to need? And Gerard Martin as a left-footed center back. Now we're seeing that, and that all makes sense. But the player I want to actually bring to your attention is I kind of think a little bit about Gabriel Militao here. And And if he didn't have those injuries, he would be, I mean, his Barcelona career was decimated by the ACL injury and injuries and things like that. But where he sat in the Barcelona hierarchy, where Iñigo Martinez just succeeded and stayed healthy, where Militao didn't, right? And I think if Militao had been on the field more, we think about the way that he would have contributed to winning. It was just very similar. Two players who were really good for a long time outside of Barcelona. They joined probably the biggest club of their careers, respectively, and they add to this winning. But for Iñigo Martinez, I think I would like to just appreciate his legacy the way it is. And again, also it's a business. I think he had the opportunity to get a payday, and I think the timing is the only weird part of it, right? Like, why didn't he do this earlier? The only thing I can think of is that maybe that clause went into effect on August 1st or August 6th. Like, whenever that clause might have gone into play with the outside Europe. So, like, again, that's the business part.
Maybe he didn't want to speak in front of the fans, knowing what he was doing, because I guess the news came out that he was stripped from being a captain #1. So maybe he didn't want to lose that privilege. I don't know. It was really off. Like, at the end of the day, it's like now it's like, what does it do it now? Like, we opened up a lot of room for the roster to go back to the 1-1 rule with the departure of Iñigo Martínez, but I know Madridistas, right? Real Madrid fans. I talk to a lot of them because I'm in the group chat where we do this show with a bunch of people, right? From Football Carnage, he'll bring us on or whatever. And from what I get, the vibes from Madrid fans is that they're so happy, right? And they should be, because like I said, I rated Iñigo Martínez very, very highly. But at the same time, I am on record on my channel that two of the players that I was really worried about this season were, in fact, Iñigo Martínez and Lewandowski, because of their age. Because I feel like they overperformed last year, and I just didn't know if they had it in them one more season. And lo and behold, Iñigo Martínez says that he didn't want to go through the whole pressure of playing so many games. I don't know if that was just a tweet thing or whatever, but at the end of the day, like, there's no guarantees. Like, the more I think about this, I'm like, there's no guarantees that Iñigo Martínez was going to have another great season next year or this coming up year.
I think it's very, very unlikely. That's actually what I actually, again, looking at the decline he had last season, I think it's very unlikely. And it's not just the form. It is staying healthy, and it's all the work that these top athletes have to do.
Yeah, you talk to ex-players, and they tell you that the legs go really fast, one year to another.
Right, and again, it's the hard work that Lewandowski is wired a little bit different. Because I know that people are like, well, he always falls off come the spring. He's been scoring goals really well in the fall and the start of seasons, and then he's been falling off in the last 3 seasons. And even at his age, you worry about Lewandowski. The difference is that Lewandowski, and all teammates have said this, that guy puts in the work. And I think it is totally fair for Iñigo Martínez to say, hey, I'm 34. I put the work in. Time for me to get one big final payday and go to Saudi Arabia, because I just don't have it in me. I've been doing this since I was 8 years old. I don't have it in me to do it at the elite top level, the way that Lewandowski still chooses to do.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think, man? I want to get your thoughts real quick on Araujo, because what I did say, I wanted Christensen Kubarsi combo for next season, and I was kind of predicting, like, I didn't know what I was gonna expect from Iñigo Martínez. I didn't know if he was injured already into the next season. He didn't play any preseason games. Gerard Martin was being tried out as a CB as well. So I'm like, what is going on with Iñigo Martínez? Maybe he's just his body, it's kind of trading him, or like something is betraying him a little bit. I don't know. And I'm like, I'm a little worried about Iñigo Martínez. I'm like, I like what I'm seeing from Christensen. Every time I see Christensen, he's just like a security blanket, man. Like, he never makes mistakes. I never see him make something weird or just not defend well on a play. He's always so sound. His IQ is off the charts. I wanted Flake next season to try the combo with Kubarsi and Christensen. But where my problem and my worries lie is on that not having Iñigo Martínez as that number 3. Now our number 3 is Araujo. That's where the ripple effect comes in. And now our number 4 is probably like Eddie Garcia. So where do you land on this whole, like, what is Flick going to do? Do you feel good about the defense now that we don't have Iñigo Martínez? And what are your thoughts, your quick thoughts on Araujo per se?
Well, I had Araujo as one of my losers for the preseason tour, because even before Iñigo Martínez's injury, my expectation for him, because he did stick around, because the clause was up, he could have gone for 60 mil, to Juventus or wherever it was going to be. And that time period came and went in his contract. And now he's going to be at Barcelona. He's likely going to be giving the speech on Sunday at the One Game Pair game because Ter Stegen, obviously, and all the things going on with that. So Araujo will likely be the main captain with the microphone in his hand. So all of that said, what I wanted to see from him in that preseason was to take that starting spot and leave no doubt, be the number one option, and make Flick go, well, do I actually want to start Christensen or Kubarsi as the other guy next to Araujo? Because this guy is so indispensable. And I think his expectation for himself is that level. And I think with him, I want to be very careful as well. And I feel like maybe it's the coward's way out, but I want to be very careful about kind of riding the wave of the backlash to him. He was not healthy for the first half of last season. So that is not applicable to his report card. And then I think he was regaining fitness and figuring out Hansi Flick's system. Now, is he going to be the center back with the ball that Hansi Flick needs him to be? Because I think there's a difference between the system that we had seen even employed by Valverde, where you had a lot of passing from the goalkeepers, which is why Ter Stegen excelled under Valverde, because you had a lot of long balls and you were able to use one of the best ball-playing ball-playing goalkeepers, maybe of all time in Ter Stegen, the way that he was used. And then even Xavi was still using that long ball from Ter Stegen and attempting to press with the front 10 in more of a built unit there and closing down the positional space, where Hansi Flick is much more sold out to that high line. And that puts an onus, so much more of an onus tactically on the center backs being able to play diagonal balls, which every time Araujo does one, I kind of just write it down, right? And I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't have to write in my notes. I used to do the same for Lenglet. Every time Lenglet would have a ball that he would ping to the opposite side for more than 30 yards, I go, oop, this is a good thing. Maybe that's why he's starting. Maybe that's why Valverde can't drop him. And for Araujo, I kind of feel myself almost doing the same thing, where I feel like I'm writing down every time he has a success. And unfortunately, in the preseason, I don't feel like he took that starting spot and ran with it. Now with Iñigo Martínez leaving, though, and Christensen not ever
it brings an opportunity. Dude, Araujo, what just really drives me crazy, Araujo was trying to draw himself offsides. Like just stumbling around on the offside line. Dude, there's nobody around you. The defense, the line is way up. And there's a video of him. I don't know if you saw that, but there's like a video of him that kind of went viral because he was like trying to like do the trap on the high line, but there was nobody around him. It was like he was the only one who was keeping everybody on side. It was just ridiculous. I mean, I just don't see the IQ that I see from Christensen, for example. But the problem with Christensen is just the injuries, right? So I somewhere deep down in my Culés bloodlines, I just feel like I still want to believe in Araujo. I see that sizing. I see the speed that he has. That dude. I've said this already. Like I look at Pacho and I rated him number 3 last season, and I see Pacho, and I don't see why Araujo can't be somewhere close to what Pacho's doing. And the only thing I see between they're both extremely fast, good on sizing, but the Pacho's always focused. He's always good on the ball. He knows where the offense attackers are going. He's very good at that. So I'm like, why can't Araujo just take that leap, that step into the next level? I would never understand it for the life. He has all the tools to do it, man.
Well, let me hit you with a hot take. I was a big, I actually wasn't that big, but I gave my criticism to Gerard Martin. I had said 1,000 times, and I fought with people because they felt like, obviously, if somebody's out on a player, then they're really out, right? And it's like, get him out of my club, blah, 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 blah. And I have we have those arguments, I bet online 1 million times over. So I refuse to fight with the get him out of my club crew with Gerard Martin. But what I did say is that I do believe that Gerard Martin would be the starting left back for 12 of the 20 teams in the Liga. Not the top 8, but 12 of 20. And I think my gut feeling, having watched him in the preseason at left center back, and then seeing Jofre Torrent and how comfortable he looked as potentially a backup for Balde. And I know he's 18, but again, if they're good enough, it doesn't matter how young they are. My gut is actually telling me that the narrative about Gerard Martin, I almost kind of want to, I know this isn't our job, but I kind of almost want to pin it. Like, how many of you yelled at me because I said Gerard Martin wasn't good enough for Barcelona, and you were mad at me?
I don't know if was that me or you? I'm not sure if that was me or you. The connection kind of,
Well, so let me finish the Gerard Martin point. I think people yelled at me because I said that he wasn't Barcelona quality when they really wanted me to say that we have to he should end his professional career and we should fire him into the sun because I just wasn't angry enough. But I was like, yeah, I mean, he was a fine backup left back, and it was a spot that I think that Barcelona should reinforce in the offseason. And maybe Jofre Torrens, they knew internally that you always need to look at La Masia, and that's the way to do that. But my hot take this season is that all those people that hated on Gerard Martin are going to get real quiet when Christensen goes down, or even Araujo, who is not necessarily a healthy player either. And Kubarsi is also still 18 and has put a lot of first-team minutes already under those legs. So with that being your center back pairing, or try and add Koundé and Eric Garcia to potential options there, but now you're kind of eating into that right back stuff, there is a domino effect. So my question to you back in return is, with the news that Hector Fort was likely 1 foot fully out the door, you feel like maybe the club already knew about the Iñigo Martínez stuff and they're still fine with Hector Fort leaving. But now at this point, with the number of, I know he's a fullback, but I don't know with the number of available center backs you have and the necessity maybe to have Eric Garcia play at center back, even though he's excelled so much at right back, maybe you have to kind of keep Hector Fort around because you might, one injury and Barcelona it's looking pretty thin at the back.
Yeah, exactly. No, just so I understood the question correctly, what was exactly the question?
Would you keep, should Hector Fort be sticking around now?
Oh, yeah. So I definitely think that he should stick around. He's not that great, but he's not that bad. The only thing that I like about Hector Fort is what I do like, so I should say, is that he does actually play good defense. He's held his own. Now when he lags, I think what he lacks is always supporting in the attack. There was I remember one of the preseason games, well, I'm going to talk about it just briefly, and this Rooney Bargy, when he came into the last game, he just didn't have any support from Hector Fort. Like, Hector Fort just play on defense and forgets about attacking, and that's kind of what I don't like. But I do get what you're saying, though. I like it. I like to take, the Gerard Martin. One thing that he's very Iñigo-like in the sense of, like, he'll give you, like he's a warrior, man. Like Gerard Martin, like he plays his hearts out every time. He tries very, very hard. And you know what? He outplayed every single time. I'm doing these post-game shows, right? I go live and look at all the sofa scores and everything, dude. Gerard Martin outplayed Araujo every single game. And then the last 2 games they played together, and Iñigo, Gerard Martin played better than Araujo. And I'm like, how can Araujo let all this thing happen? But to your point, I think that Gerard Martin is working extremely well at the CB, and Real Madrid can laugh all they want. But at the end of the day, I'm like, Barcelona can still, their CB room is not that bad. Eric Garcia and Kubarsi play the Olympics together, so they have chemistry together as well. We also have Araujo, who knows, maybe he'll have a breakout year. Just like Rafinha did. Like, a lot of fans were ready to ship Rafinha out the door. Look at what it is now.
Well, what are Real Madrid fans really boasting about when last season they had to go through some of those important parts of their season with Tchouaméni at center back because of how limited their center back?
No, they're happy because Iñigo left. I guess they're hopeful and they think that they are better than us because now we don't have Iñigo Martínez. I guess that's what my point.
Well, and I think the question about Gerard Martin, and I have a difficulty discussing this too. I think as Kool-Aid, especially for La Masia kids, because I enjoy covering the academy kids because their ceilings are so high and the potential is unlimited. And that's like the fear about getting rid of Hector Fort. And fans will get upset when Barcelona sell him for $6 million with a buyback, but he just turned 19 this week. And if there's no spot for him in the next 2 to 3 seasons because of the depth that Barcelona has, a reminder that Eric Garcia and Jules Koundé are in their mid-20s, not late 20s, but in their mid-20s. So in theory, they have a lot of football left to go. And Gerard Martin is a player that does not raise your ceiling, but he doesn't really lower your floor that far either, right? He played and started in a semifinal against Inter Milan in the Champions League, and he shouldn't have, right? Barcelona should have had a better player in that spot, but they didn't. They had Gerard Martin. He picks up the 2 assists, and his issues in that game were well classified. But again, I want to add the context. Gerard Martin was starting in the semifinal of a Champions League. And I know that you don't want that, but that is who he is. And that is where he's been now. He
got an assist while playing CB in the preseason.
Yeah.
He got an assist. But guys, I got to say this, man. You guys are moving like Rudiger defending Ferran Torres in the Copa del Rey final. Like, it's 25 likes and 74 people watching. I think we can do a lot better than that. Also, guys, if you guys can go subscribe to Dan at the Barcelona Podcast. That would mean a lot to me as well. But yeah, man, let's move on. I do want to get your thoughts on the preseason games because I am extremely happy, and but for the wins, not for the goals. I'm extremely happy because the new guys seem like they play really well. And not when I say new guys, I don't mean just Rashford. I don't mean just Rooney Bargy, which I'm very impressed. And I mean like Jeffrey Torrens, who basically looks like a beast out there on the field. Like he looks like he could even compete with Balde, maybe if he takes it up a notch. But at the very least, he can be his backup. But like, what are your thoughts, kind of like on the preseason games, knowing that this is not, this is not Real Madrid, or this is not like Liverpool we're playing up against.
Sure.
But it's good to see what the new guys and kind of what the system and what Flick is doing with Rashford at the same time. I'm very impressed with Rashford. I'm taking it slow with him. This is why I'm impressed, because I didn't have a lot of expectations, but he looks like he's incohesive with the team. He looks like he understands the offense. But what are your take kind of on the preseason, man?
Yeah, I'm going to zag a little bit. I promise, get to the new signings. But the thing that stood out the most to me that I've been sitting with and excited about this preseason was that I had kind of penciled in the fact that Hansi Flick, because he likes to play that 10, if Olmo was healthy, Olmo will start a bunch of games, and it'll be Pedri and De Jong, and that combination, the double pivot, can win you all the trophies you need to. If De Jong is as good as he was in the closing month of the season, and Pedri is Pedri, right? You're good. So with those as your double pivot, you're in good shape. And then you go, well, and then you have Gabi too. But that sentence doesn't make sense after I watched that preseason. I go, how, if you're Hansi Flick, do you go to sleep at night and say, okay, I'm going to snuggle into my bed and I'm going to not have Gabi start? And I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you put the cover up and close his eyes, knowing that he's not starting Gabi, because Gabi with Barcelona.
Gabi looks so good, man. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people make fun of him, and he looked very, very good. Like he and doctors say this. Then sorry to cut you off. I'll finish your thought later. But as doctors say this about ACLs, because I follow the NFL, I follow the NBA, and doctors say this: the first ACL happens, then it's a whole year of recovery. After the whole year recovery, you need another year to kind of ease back in. And then after that year, you need another third year to just, now you're fully back and you need to get into the rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly the point, that we keep forgetting that. And so the expectations for Bernal this season, again, he's 18, so I'd say relax on Bernal, and he is coming back from the ACL injury. I do think that Bernal, and playing so deeply in the hole that he does, he might look a little more polished and coming back from the ACL injury, the way, unlike what Gabi did. But yeah, it takes another year. And if Gabi is who he was, I want to remind people how good he was. Barcelona's best player in the first 2 months of the season before he went down with the ACL injury. I know it's a lifetime ago, but he was so good to start that season, and that ACL injury tore that away from us. And so to have Gabi this good already, I think something that I've always loved about Barcelona, and looking at the midfield options that Hansi Flick has, you can tell me how worried you're about the defense. Totally agree. You can tell me how worried you're about the number 9 and Lewandowski's age and potentially falling off, and can Rafinha repeat it, and give me questions about the forwards. Fine. But the midfield for Barcelona is clicking and will be clicking in such a way, and has the depth with Casado, and again, how much you can get Bernal. Don't worry about it. Take your time. That the midfield gives me hope that, like, no matter what, Barcelona's ceiling is just so high, right? They can only fall so far when you have players like that in your midfield. Just exceptional stuff. Okay, now for quickly, all the players that impressed me, I will say that I've known about Dro now since he arrived at the club 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, they're seeing a lot of hype about him now.
Yeah, he came from the Galicia region, and he wasn't. There are other players though who are pretty high or big, like youth Spanish prospect. Like John Regili was actually a semi-okay one, but Marcos Periego, who came from Rayo Vallecano, he's a U19 player that people haven't learned yet, but he's kind of not. He was a big youth Spanish international prospect, and Barcelona got a signature. Great. And that happens a lot, right? A 15-year-old, 16-year-old, there's a lot of these stories that we're going to talk about. He's also only like 18 or 19, so I don't know. Maybe he could be the next one. Who knows? But point is, he was one of the big names. Dro Fernandez was not one of the big names, even coming to Barcelona. He came with another player from, I think it was a nearby club, and that player is either already gone or in the background somewhere. But when you watch Dro Fernandez last season, even with the U19 UEFA Youth League, he's so good on the ball. Like, technically speaking, he and Kim Junet are the two that I trust the most in a telephone booth to dribble their way out of it.
Yeah.
And then I mean, so that was very exciting to where I say, hey, even if Olmo gets broken for that long, I mean, Joe Fernandez, he's again still 17, so it's too much of a big moment for him. But he did not look totally out of place for all these players. Tony Fernandez, and I don't know about Guy Fernandez, he's going to be sticking around. I think this is more of actually an
Tony Fernandez looks good. Dro looks amazing too.
Well,
the Masia's coming, dude. It's still coming.
Oh,
it's insane.
How many games would they play? And that's what I remind people. Like, I'm not saying that Joe Fernandez, if he's going to be in the first team, he's impressed me enough, he's going to start 50 games. I'm saying that if that kid makes 10 to 15 appearances at 17, same thing with Tony Fernandez, 17, if they make 10 to 15 appearances and are killing it in the 4th division, that's fine. They're 17, and then they will be ready. That's the timeline.
And what people don't understand is, you know how hard it is to break out of La Masia right now. The fact that Barcelona was arguably one of the best teams in the world last season goes to show you how hard would it be to break out of that team, to make that starting 11, or even to make the squad right now. Because I remember Gavi debuted at 17, but when Gavi came into the team, it was right 1 year before Xavi Hernandez, and the team really was kind of like in shambles. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what direction we were in. It's a little different than when Gavi broke out of into the first squad, and then there's a big difference of now these kids. How hard is it for them right now with this team that Hansi Flick has?
Well, it's about luck too. I mean, there was a reason why Gavi got his opportunity. It's about luck and timing, because the only reason Gavi got his chance was because Idas Moriba took the money, and people still try to clown on Idas Moriba. But if he doesn't take the money, I mean, maybe Gavi was always inevitable. Like, some of those players, just like Lamine Yamal was. I know Arsene and I was, well, even before Arsene was really, really covering it. Like, I talked about him when he was a 12-year-old. I shouldn't have, and I try not to do that, but like, he was so special and so much better than everyone else always. Lamine Yamal was in his age groups that you're like, oh, that kid he's a lot. This would be, I don't know where his floor is going to be, but like, that kid is really, really special. And Lamine Yamal was like that from the time he was 12 years old. So maybe, yes, he is inevitable. Maybe Pedri was inevitable, jumping into the first team when he came at 16 from Las Palmas. And maybe Gavi was going to be inevitable. But again, I'm also not sure about that, because why didn't Gavi then come up at the year that Idas Moriba was playing, right, when he was 18 years old? So it does come down to timing. And maybe Tony Fernandez, unfortunately, is too similar in age to Lamine Yamal. Maybe it just won't work out for him. Maybe Fernandez, unfortunately, like all the other midfielders, like Kim Junet, I can tell you how many other teams I watch. I watch Real Betis, and I go, Kim Junet would be in the first team for them. He just would be.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And that's really tough, because Fermin Lopez, how many teams does he start for? And for Barcelona, we just kind of have to slot him in as a sub. It's so interesting, because there's just so many different players that you would say, Guy Fernandez is getting courted by Borussia Dortmund, not for their U19s, but to play in their first team, because Barcelona don't necessarily have room for him in a really crowded midfield. And yet he could get some chances at Borussia freaking Dortmund, who were on the cusp of making the 8 last season. So La Masia, I don't know. If you want me to waste the next 2 hours of your life, maybe it wouldn't be a waste. But if you want me to waste 2 hours of your life, keep me talking about La Masia.
I know, dude. We can never stop talking about La Masia, to be honest. But guys, there's 80 people watching right now. You guys still moving like Rudiger, trying to defend Ferran Torres in the Copa del Rey. Come on, we should have at least 60 likes on this stream. Give it up for Dan as well. Subscribe to his channel, the Barcelona Podcast. Man, you make some great content, bro. That's why I reached out to you too. And but what do you make of the real quick? What do you make of the Como preseason? Man, can you believe it? We are just days away. We're less than 2 weeks away from the kickoff of La Liga 2025-2026. Man, I don't remember last time I was this excited. Barcelona gave me so much last season that I'm just so happy to see them again, once again, every single game. And the Como game, I'm not gonna miss that. Like, unless I have like an emergency, dude. There's all these games from Barcelona excite me. But what I do want to get your thoughts on this against Como, man. Against Fabregas is coming back to the house.
Well, it's gonna be funny. My prediction is that Fabregas is going to be cheered, and even Sergio Berto is going to be cheered in a way that could remind you that if your name is not Luis Figo, time heals all wounds. And if I'm Ter Stegen, I'm looking at that and going, well, you know what? If I leave on a certain term, it's got to be really bad for time not to heal some of these wounds. But because remember, again, online is different than in Catalonia. And the Catalan players, of course, are forgiven quite a bit easier than foreign players. That's an unfortunate truth that exists, right? So Sergio Berto was always going to be given a little bit more leniency when he returned to the club. But yeah, I'm excited because I think Como, we'll talk about this more on my show. Como I don't know how much basketball your supporters like, but I'm going to make the same
Lakers fan.
So don't worry about that. But so the Lakers are not one of the teams that this applies to. That's the only reason I say that. So Como reminds me of one of the teams that likes to draft top prospects from high school who didn't really have great college seasons. If that makes sense. Like they were top.
Nico Paz is a great example.
Exactly. And so like I think that Como has a bunch of these players. I mean, and not only that, the guys in their mid-20s, like Massin Kakare. How many times did I say, gosh, that kid in Lyon, like maybe could be a like Busquets successor? And Patrick Catrone for the Italian national team. How many times are like Patrick Catrone, he's going to be the next guy at AC Milan, and Yannick Engelhardt in the Bundesliga. Like he was a huge prospect. Werder Bremen, someone can correct me on that. I mean, Dele Alli is in that team. Nicholas Kuhn, like they have all these guys in their late 20s, and then you look at all the 22 or under guys who should have. And I say should have, like Assane Diao should have stayed at Real Betis. Jesus Rodriguez probably also should have stayed at Real Betis. And yet they all took the little bit of a payday. And so I have no idea what to expect from Como, especially speaking of Real Betis. Como and Real Betis just a few days ago got into a fist fight. They got into a brawl in the first half. And so that's kind of fire that
I heard about that. Yeah.
Delivering in their preseason. But I as far as the Game Pair Trophy game in totality, I think there's some fanfare to it. There's some excitement to it. And I think the one thing that neuters it is that there's no Lewandowski out with a hamstring injury. There's no Olmo. And then Ferran Torres is doubtful. So to bring this, and I did prepare this. I didn't talk about Rashford then because I want to talk about Rashford now, that I do expect him to be the number 9 starting against Como. And to your point about expectation about Rashford, I think everybody came in so tentatively about him, which I think is fair. With the season he had last season, I think it was fair to be very tentative. We knew he'd be motivated. But the question how well would he fit in a team that he does not speak the same language as, right? I mean, yes, he can communicate with Lewandowski and
Hansi Flick.
And Hansi
speaks English.
Exactly, the manager, which is, I guess, the most important guy you need to be able to communicate with. So we also know like Pedri speaks English. Like there's a lot of players that do speak pretty reasonable English on the team as well as teammates. But we knew he'd come in motivated. But that motivation very rarely, honestly, when it comes to big splash signings with these kind of big names and reclamation projects, how often does it fail? And I'm not saying it's going to be a success or was a success in the preseason, but it looks like we're on the right path. And I think that's how I'm going to continue to talk about Rashford here this season, in that we're on the right path. We're on the Yellow Brick Road. We just have to get to the Emerald City. And whatever that means for Rashford, does that mean 20 goals? Does that mean 15 and 10? Like, I don't know if there's a numerical trophy that comes for him individually that means that he's worth 30 million. But I think actually that's the answer. That is he going to be worth a 30 million buy clause at the end of this season? And I think we're on that path.
Yeah.
We've got how many 8 months to go, but right now it feels like we're on the path that he's going to be worth the 30 million. And I think, again, I'm going into it with those kind of low expectations, hoping that, because I was talking about you mentioned it before too. Like if he is Marcus Rashford, like that Marcus Rashford, like the English media from 6-7 years ago, Marcus Rashford, then that whole thing that people are having a dialogue right now that Lewandowski is going to be too old and that musical chairs of number 9s in world football, Barcelona can't afford the one that they need because they always get the big player, or they or they're not going to get, there isn't going to be a guy enough quality to step into that role for Barcelona next season. Because again, you're not going to get Erling Haaland or whatever. Yeah. And if Marcus Rashford internally solves that problem for Barcelona, I mean, now you want to talk legend status. I'm kidding, man. Like that's a huge problem to solve. So
exactly. No, guys, we're getting to the end of the show. I got a few questions for you, Dan, too. But guys, please help me out to get to 60 likes. There's 88 people watching. So guys, please smash the like so we can get to more people. Also, go subscribe to Dan, the Barcelona Podcast. Great content. You upload every time Barcelona plays, or do you upload like what every like 3 times a week, or what do you do?
Oh man, I do you see there's a little gray in my hair. That's because I do all the match reviews, and then I also try to come out with specialty content. My channel, for better or worse, has become known for being a little head on La Masia kids. So that's a fun thing you can join. So I have my shows, by the way. I do live streams for the game too. I do live streams on bigup.com, which is a stream. We do tactics boards, all those things. So I do
like
live
watch-alongs or what?
Yeah, they're watch-alongs. So I do watch-alongs on the site, bigup.com. And then afterwards, check on YouTube. And a few hours after the fact, I sit with it, think about it a little bit, and then I come out with my 5 headlines that I think and I do it for every match, which after all these years is still crazy. It's an absurd business we chose to be in, but we do it because we love it, and that's what we're doing. So,
dude, that's crazy, man. I don't know why I never started this, but I started like in January, which is it's just crazy. I don't know why I never did that. I should have done this like 5. I don't know what I was thinking. I was literally like dumb. But yeah, so I got my questions. So my predictions. I think Barcelona wins La Liga next season. I think it's gonna be hard to win everything like we did the past season, right? It was a special season. We won basically the local treble. I don't think that's a good term, but people use it. So I don't think we're gonna do that again. I think we may lose. I've been watching Barcelona, Real Madrid for more than 30 years. Real Madrid doesn't have 2 back-to-back years where they don't win anything. So I do expect Real Madrid to bounce back. Maybe win Copa del Rey, win Super Cup, something along those lines. Barcelona will be competing for the UEFA Champions League next season. Hopefully we can make a deep run. I think we make at least quarterfinals, semifinals. Hopefully, right? We can win the UEFA Champions League next season. But what's your take on next season, especially after this Iñigo Martínez, man? I do feel a little bit worse than I felt a couple of days ago about this whole prediction thing. But you tell me, what are kind of your predictions and expectations for next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think my expectations and predictions come down to health. And I think the 3 biggest names that I need to mention is that if Lamine Yamal is as good as he looks like he's put on some weight, which he has, and he looks somehow better. Like I thought that was going to affect his dribbling and his balance a little bit. It is not. He looks even tougher. He looks even stronger. So Lamine Yamal is ascending even higher than he was last season. If Pedri is able to stay healthy and stays consistent to what he is, and if Juan Garcia is an upgrade in net to even what Chesney was, if Juan Garcia is that guy, I mean, I'm not young enough to say, but if he's him, right? If Juan Garcia is that guy, and if you come out of this season saying Lamine Yamal, Pedri, and Juan Garcia were their 3 most important players, I think Barcelona have won not 1, but at least 2 trophies, whether it is Copa del Rey and Champions League, whether it's Champions League and the Liga, which is the most unlikely combination, but whether it's, again, the double of it's La Liga and Copa del Rey, and Real Madrid do the stupid Champions League thing. We have to sit through that. But I do think that if those are the 3 most important players and they stay fit, like I don't know what the floor of a team with that Lamine Yamal, because I mean, look at what Mbappe even was last season, Vinny Jr. Like it just Lamine Yamal is that forward that you take in Spain. I mean, like the propaganda, they can do their best, but like Lamine Yamal is the star. Sorry, Mbappe, like you have been surpassed unless you're going to have a much better season in the capital, which, I mean, he might. I think Xabi Alonso is I think he's a much more dynamic manager than what Ancelotti was. And once Ancelotti didn't have the secret sauce, he had a hard time finding it. Where Xabi Alonso, I think even if they start slow, they will build up to the springtime. And Xabi Alonso, I do trust that they are going to be a team in, like, it could be interesting for this season. Real Madrid went 0-4 against Barcelona, and I could see Barcelona going 1-3 against Real Madrid, and yet Barcelona still win the domestic double. Does that make sense? Like, I can see Real Madrid being the best in Barcelona, and yet Barcelona still being the more consistent, better team.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This comment right here, it says Atletico have a great team this season, and I think it's true. Do you expect them to win anything? Because I mean, I'm thinking to myself, like, what are they going to win? Like, they're better even after all the signings. Are they still better than Barcelona? I don't think so. Are they still better than Real Madrid? I don't think so. Real Madrid got better than last season. I don't know what Atletico Madrid will do next season, but it's interesting. They got Villarreal's best player. They've been getting like ballers everywhere you look, and I don't know, like I don't where they get this money from, but dude, they're being upgrading big time. They still have Julian Alvarez. I mean, to me, that's insane. So, what do you make of Atletico Madrid, real quick?
Yeah, it's interesting because you asked where they got the money from. It's that, remember, they went through it with their money financially when they were redoing the Wanda Metropolitano, and so they're filling their stadium now, and that's where their money is coming from. And Real Madrid the same way. They took the time, they took the hit financially over a few summers. when they were upgrading the Santiago Bernabeu, and Barcelona will have the same. Like I've been saying it for years now. I'm optimistic that financially all of this will go away, but it's just for Barcelona. Obviously, it takes forever, and it just takes always longer than you think it is. And Real Madrid, by the way, went through the same thing with their construction stuff, even though Florentino Perez, who might be the most powerful construction puppet master in not only the capital of Madrid, but in all of Spain. Like, how do you think the guy made the money he did? It was a construction project in Spain. And so even though he had all that, he was pulling all those strings, it still was delayed. It still had all these issues and whatever it was. So Atletico Madrid, they have a squad that, if they won the Copa del Rey, that's not that crazy. There's something about Diego Simeone where I feel like, this is just my gut, I feel like he's given his best to Atletico Madrid. And if this now more talented locker room, if it's not working out, how is that going to look? Will Atletico Madrid, like, they're not going to get rid of Simeone until he chooses to leave. So to that point, like, this team is either going to, you're right, knock the socks off everybody and be that good, or this could go a little sour if they're not as good as I think as they would expect themselves to be.
Yeah, no, man. Guys, please like the stream. We're going to hit the end of it. There's a few things we got to do. So any last words, Dan? I do, real quick. I know I keep saying last thing, but what do you make of Real Madrid? Do you think they're better than last season? Do you think anything you've seen from them that makes you scared that next season is not going to be the same for us? Or do you still think that I personally think, I know I'm biased, but I personally think that I haven't seen anything that scares me. I know they added Trent, they added Dean, great signings, but at the end of the day, like, we still better than them until they get an attacking, creative midfielder. To me, like, I'm still not scared. But what about you?
Yeah, I actually am of the mind that this season is not a mulligan, obviously, but next season Barcelona is going to have some stadium money, and next season Real Madrid won't have done the Club World Cup. So part of me says that Barcelona, if they played their cards right, they could run away with the Liga early if Atletico Madrid are dropping points, because Atletico Madrid also played in the Club World Cup, and so did Real Madrid. I live in New York City. It is hot. It was very hot, and they put a lot of legs on themselves. They just started training this week. So yes, they had a few reps together, but there are a lot of heavy legs there in a way that Barcelona are the fittest, the healthiest. So I know they didn't get that big payday, and that payday for the Club World Cup would have paid for, well, it would have had no registration problems. They would have had those figured out. And that money from the Club World Cup would have also probably signed a new defender to replace Iñigo Martínez. They have to make those sacrifices. That's not available for them. But they were, again, the ones that did not have to play in this heat until late in the season. They're playing too much football right now. And I think the one thing that can hurt Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid is that they both played in that Club World Cup and did all that trouble of coming to the United States and just starting preseason. So I think for Barcelona, you have to hit the ground running, and you could potentially, as good as Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid will definitely be come the spring, come 2026, I think you've got to create some room between you and the other two giants.
Exactly, man. Guys, please like the stream. Remember, guys, tomorrow I'm doing a live stream at 1 p.m. Pacific time. I am going to be giving away a Lamine Yamal jersey here on this channel. I'm so grateful for everybody who's been following me. So I thought I'd give away a number 10 jersey. So guys, please tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Tomorrow on a live stream, we're going to give it away to one of you guys. Any last word then? Anything else you got coming up on your channel?
The season's starting. So yeah, I mean, enjoy Barca Volume, enjoy the Barcelona podcast, enjoy the Siempre Positivo guys. Like, there's so many good Barca content creators out there. There's also some not so great ones, but there are some really good ones. And I would say you just started this in January, but I'd leave you with welcome to the party. I always say, like, the collaboration thing like that, there is enough. I mean, this is a fan base with millions of people. There is enough attention and eyes, and there are enough fans for all of us and everybody. And if I know this is a paid hobby for all of us, but there is passion and there is love in what we do, and I'm excited to have you join the.
I'm doing it definitely because of passion. I'm a small content creator. I'm not there yet. I'm not making any money. It is monetized, but it's very, very minimum. But I do appreciate your word, Dan. It means a lot to me. Thank you for coming onto the show, guys. If you subscribe to then, that would mean a lot to me. The Barcelona podcast, great content always, man. But guys, tune in tomorrow to that live stream, and one of you lucky are gonna win that Lamine Yamal jersey. And then, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, awesome. Forza Barça.
Que Barça. All right, man.